Hi, I'm Nicole and this is Dusty Book Sniffers, and today we're here to talk about Sorrow and Bliss from Meg Mason. This book was shortlisted for the 2022 Women's Prize for Fiction, and we've done it as a group read over on our Discord. So let's get started. Good morning, good evening everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Thank you for taking some time out of your day and spending it with me. I am in my new location of down in my local park, and as I said, we're going to be talking about Sorrow and Bliss. So this book was really good. I actually read this in one sitting. I couldn't put it down. It just vibed with me. I wouldn't say that, like, I'm not going to sit here and say that it was fantastic writing and that's why I couldn't put it down or anything like that. I just really connected with the story and really connected with the characters. So basically it's following, I'm really bad for forgetting people's names, so let me just check that. Martha. Okay, it's following her story. So basically, just on the back, it says that, you know, she's clever, she's beautiful, she's brilliant, and everybody keeps telling her this. And then she has been loved every day by her partner, Patrick, and she's questioning why everything is so broken. Why does she feel so depressed all the time? Why does she feel like nothing is going well? So basically it starts out with her childhood, and Patrick is in her childhood and they met each other then, and it goes on until she gets into her teens, and then something happens in her teens. She becomes ill, she becomes very erratic, and it doesn't actually say what is wrong with her, but it sort of alludes to, like, at first I thought it maybe was schizophrenia that they were talking about, because it was treated like it was really taboo and like they didn't want to talk about it, and her mother was quite, how you going about the whole situation. Now her father is a poet and her mother is an artist, and then there's her sister who she's really close to. So these are the four main characters that you learn about very early on in the book. And then there's Patrick, who comes in, I think he comes in with another family, and that's how they all meet and whatnot. And subsequently it just goes on about her landing with a guy and this mental illness that she has, and when she was at the doctors, how the doctors said to her that they were going to put her on this medication, and then, you know, are you pregnant, is there any chance of you being pregnant, don't fall pregnant, and all this sort of stuff. And so this is all happening very early on in the book and whatnot. And so then the story just plays out from there, of her romantic relationships and her relationship with her mother and her father and her sister, and ultimately with her husband, Patrick, and how it all plays out and how the mental illness affects her and the people around her. And all the while she's harboring this secret, like she's not a secret as such, but, you know, like she really doesn't want to have children and all that sort of stuff, and because of what this doctor says to her. But subsequently it flows on from there without giving too much away. It just really had it really stuck with me and really struck a chord with me, because, you know, of how mental illness does affect those who are suffering from it, but also ultimately the people around them as well. Not knowing how to deal with it, and a lot how they just sweep it under the carpet and all that sort of stuff. So a lot of people have given her excuses over the years of, you know, of why that she is the way she is, or it's don't worry about it, it's just Martha type thing, you know. And so that plays out quite a bit throughout the book. And so I found it really a really compelling read and whatnot, knowing as well, like, I've lived with people that have mental disorders or mental illness, and it is hard to be around people that have those conditions, and it's hard to know what to do or what the right thing is to do, or, you know, what not to say or what to say. And even now, as a 52-year-old woman, I still struggle with knowing what to do. And reading books like this really makes me reflect on my own childhood and you know, the mental illness that ultimately I believe my mother suffered from and went undiagnosed, which was major depression from a tragic trauma that happened to her when she was 16 years old, which resulted in me. And so, you know, like she never got that sorted out as far as I'm aware, and just the ramifications and the choices that she made and stuff like that. So books like this really do hit home for me. You know, and even through my own life, suffering through bouts of depression while not medicated and self-diagnosed, I recognised the signs of feeling very flat because of friends in my life that actually suffer from severe depression or bipolar and things like that. So this really did hit home with me, and I found it a very compelling read, and I couldn't put it down. You know, I found it to be very realistic as well. Like, it wasn't sugar-coated, and she didn't make light of Martha's illness and whatnot. I mean, ultimately, you know, we all strive to get help, but sometimes we've got to go through many, many doctors before we get that diagnosis, or we get that help, or we find that person that we click with that can help us and stuff like that. And she explores all of that in this book, and it was just an amazing book to read, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I've actually given it a 4.5-star rating. Now I'm going to compare it because it was shortlisted against Ruth Ozeki, and these two books are very much on par of being very realistic and having really different ways of looking at mental illness and how it's discussed and all that sort of stuff. And they both have done, they have both done a fabulous job. I do not envy the judges that had to decide between those two books. It must have been a very difficult task indeed to have Ruth Ozeki beat out Meg Mason. But yeah, like, these two books are pretty much up there for me. As I said, it's just really struck a chord with me and made me reflect over my life and the people that I've been around. And, you know, maybe I could have done things different as a healthy person. Maybe I could have been a little bit more compassionate at times, especially in my younger years. In saying that, it was still the 80s and the early 90s, and it's only been in our recent history that we've really started to talk about mental illness and take the stigma away from it. So I was sort of on the cusp. So I was learning along the way, but it still makes me reflect at books like this. Thoroughly enjoyed it. As I said, I've given it a 4.5-star rating. If you haven't picked this book up, pick it up, give it a read. Like, Meg Mason has done a fabulous, fabulous job on this, and I believe she's Australian as well. Yes, she is Australian. She's an Australian author. So if you're looking for, she lives in Sydney with her husband and her 2 daughters, and she began her journalism career at the Financial Times and the Times. Her work has since appeared in Vogue, Grazia, I think is how it's pronounced, the Sunday Times, the Sydney Morning Herald, the Sunday Telegraph. She's written humour for the New Yorker, and she has been a monthly columnist for the GQ and a regular contributor to Vogue and Marie Claire, and contributing editor at Elle. So her resume is pretty good. But yeah, so she's an Australian author. So if you're looking for an Australian author to read, give her a go. She does a fantastic job of subtly talking about mental illness and the problems that resolve around it. The ending blew me away. I did cry a couple of times during this book. So be prepared, take some tissues with you, and probably don't read it in public, because if you don't like ugly crying, this book may make you ugly cry. Again, 4.5-star read from me. If you haven't picked it up, I highly recommend that you do. But that is it from me today. Have a wonderful day, everybody. And if you have yet to subscribe, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the little bell icon beside it, and that way you're not going to miss out on any future uploads. As always, keep turning those pages, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.